In this lesson, we go through how to structure your day and how to manage your time most effectively using my top 10 time management tips, which I've genuinely been using for years now. If you find yourself unsure of how to manage your time when it comes to doing the actual client work and not knowing when you should be looking for clients, then grab a pen as we go through these tips. Speaking of time, let's begin. Tip number 1, adopt a healthy mindset. Your time is valuable. Every moment that you're doing a task for your business that isn't directly earning you an income, feeding your soul, or benefiting your company is essentially a missed opportunity. That's why it's incredibly important to manage your time effectively. Having a thought-out strategy will increase productivity and allow you to have more free time to do the things that you love, especially if you charge by the project rather than by the hour. The faster and more effectively you can do your work and tasks will only benefit you. Your investment in your business usually involves 3 qualities: time, money, or skill. Maybe you're in a situation where you have the time, the skills, but not the money to invest in hiring a big team or run adverts to grow your business. Maybe you have the money and skills, but not the time to do the client work. So you need a system to manage your time more effectively. Or maybe you have the time and money, but not the skills to do the client work. Think about it. What's your current situation? Tip number 2, prioritize. The day before you dive into work, create a list of all of the tasks you have to do in no particular order. Now, draw out on a piece of paper these 4 quadrants. Not important, not urgent. This, as you can guess, is the least paramount to your success. This is the bottom of the list. Next, important, not urgent. Now we're cooking. These are tasks that you have that are important, but don't necessarily have a deadline attached to them. Urgent, not important. So these are tasks that have a time pressure associated, but hold your horses, these are not life or death. These are things that need to be done, but they're going to be second on the to-do list. Lastly, important and urgent. These are your top priorities. So don't hesitate when it comes to tackling these tasks first. Once you've listed these 4 quadrants, place your original list into each section to form your priority list. The beauty of this is that you've done 3 big tasks in one go. Firstly, you've done a brain dump of everything that you had in your mind. Secondly, realize not everything's actually as urgent as you may have thought it was. And thirdly, you now know which task you need to act on right away. Tip 3, delegate. If you resonated with the problem being a lack of time, but you have the resources, i.e. money, then you'll like this tip. Utilize other people's specialisms to your advantage by delegating. So how do you know when you should delegate? Well, you need to know what your hourly worth is first. If you're unsure of this, you can use our quote generator tool to find out exactly what that number is. If you could find someone to help you with your personal or business life, to do a task more effectively than you, or to take over on tasks that you simply don't enjoy, then it's completely justifiable to hire someone for the same or cheaper cost than yours. Ask yourself, what current dilemmas do you have with your business? Are you struggling to find time to promote your work on social media? Hire a marketing manager on websites like Upwork, Fiverr, and Freelancer.com. Are you unable to take phone calls to handle new business inquiries? You can hire an affordable virtual assistant to take those intro calls by giving them very basic instructions on how to handle those inquiries. How about having the time to source new clients? As we discussed throughout this course, you can utilize a talent agent who actively pitches to clients, taking all of the weight off your shoulders. Even as a small studio or solopreneur, the beauty of a small business is that you can hire freelancers as and when you need them to support you in those busy months. So if your time is worth £25 an hour and any of those tasks cost £10 an hour, then it's a no-brainer to take on other freelancers or staff to free up your schedule. Not only does it save you time and stress, it means you can focus on your client work or attending to your business, all whilst using someone's expertise in their field. Tip number 4, schedule. Being great with time really comes down to just managing a solid schedule. Some of you may prefer a handwritten calendar. Personally, I live by a digital one as it's far easier to reprioritize on the fly, whilst also keeping the information in the calendar like Zoom meeting links or the address of where you need to be at a set time. The key to either method is to make sure that you always buffer in enough time to allow for traffic, an overrun in meeting, or a task that was way more difficult than you initially thought. You're probably thinking, Nick, when and how should I schedule these tasks? Well, you can place these mainly into 5 considerations. First, use the priority list system we went through earlier to map out what's most urgent and important. As you remember, work out what tasks are time-based, meaning are your clients on a different time zone to you and they're waiting for you to send through the amends to land on their desk as soon as they wake up. Maybe you want to apply for a job that you've seen first thing in the morning to be at the top of the list when the brief goes live. Second, time blocking, also known as time boxing or time batching. This is where you group all similar tasks together and set aside a time to complete them. This is really powerful to group, say, all of your admin tasks like email, invoicing and calls done in the morning between 9 and 11 a.m. Then allocate dedicated time to, say, creative work between 11 and 5 p.m. with a lunch break in between. You'll be able to get far more done with groups of tasks that require you to be in that specific mindset, rather than sporadically editing, stopping, to reply to an email, to then post an update on social media, back to editing, and so on. High achievers like Elon Musk and Bill Gates have spoken about their use of time batching, of allocating set times, and in some cases separate days, on just one task for maximum immersion. Parkinson's law is a law that states that if you have an excess of time to complete something, like spending a whole day creating a page on your website, you'll spend that whole day doing that. Whereas if you create an artificial deadline of 4 hours, you're more likely to complete that task in those 4 hours. It's really simple to do this. First, write down all of the tasks you need to do on paper or in your calendar or to-do app of choice. Circle or label all of the tasks that need to be grouped together and put a time estimate next to each task. Then use the priorities tip to order them into these 4 quadrants as needed and then pop them into your calendar to look something like this. Third, organize. In terms of where to calendar your tasks, you can use the built-in calendar app on your device, or you can use a dedicated calendar app like Fantastical, which is a more in-depth version of the traditional calendar. Another great tool is Calendly, which is amazing for scheduling a time that works for you and your client. With this link, your recipient can see when you're available to book in a call or in-person meeting, which avoids sending emails back and forth to find a time and date that fits you and your client. For more in-depth control, you can use project management software like Asana, Monday.com or ClickUp, which tie your tasks directly into the calendar, which we'll cover in another lesson. Fourth, circadian rhythm. You might be familiar with the term being an early bird or a night owl, meaning are you someone who naturally has a lot of energy and focus first thing in the morning? Or do you feel your creative juices flowing in the evening when everyone else is asleep? Which one are you? Or maybe you're one of the rare hybrids of both. Try to optimize your tasks when you're feeling most productive, as well as being mindful of your clients' needs and schedules. There are also apps like Sleep Cycle and Rise, which aims to improve the quality of your sleep and energy to be as optimal by tracking your habits. Fifth, order. Another thing to consider with scheduling tasks is to ask yourself, do I prefer to start my day with the most difficult or easiest one first? Personally, I find it really depends on how important that difficult task is. If you do that, once it's done, you'll feel a great sense of relief that it's been achieved. Brian Tracy's book, Eat That Frog, uses the example of if the first thing you were going to do each morning was to eat a live frog, you'll have the satisfaction of knowing that that's probably the worst thing you'll do all day. Using Eat That Frog as a metaphor for tackling the most challenging task of your day first thing to get it out of the way, meaning the rest of your day will be far easier from that point. On the flip side, you may be feeling spent the rest of the day by tackling that enormous task first. You may want to ease into your day with smaller tasks, which could be much more of a gradual progression to get a sense of momentum and rhythm. The downside is you have to do all the heavy lifting at the end of the day, which may hinder your motivation. So the idea is really to find what works best for you on this one. Tip number 5, eliminate all distractions. We're all too guilty of distractions and procrastination in the day. Anything that causes you to draw your attention away from your work unnecessarily, like notifications, turn them off. I'm looking at you, social media. If you can go cold turkey, delete all social media apps off your phone. Unless you're a social media manager, then don't do that. If that's too extreme for you, you can turn off notifications, or if you have an Apple device, use the focus mode so you don't have to receive notifications between certain time periods for that day. I found my productivity has never been better since setting this up. If you're getting serious withdrawal symptoms and feeling that temptation creep in, even without the notifications turned on, you can set time limits per app. This times you out of the app when you've reached your limit. Another area you can control is your environment. If you work from home, create a distraction-free environment. Invest in some noise cancellation headphones. Have a workspace that is focused, clean, and organized. Or consider joining a co-working space or desk sharing to separate your work and home environments completely. Tip number 6, chunk down. Do you find yourself having the knowledge and ideas but lacking the execution? Why is that? In most cases, it's either motivation or analysis paralysis. This is where you have an overwhelm of information for things to do, which is a lack of a plan and therefore a lack of focus. The idea is to have bite-sized actionable steps. To do this, list down all of your goals and then break them down into 1 to 2 sets of actions or subtasks per goal. The initial task of source new clients can be chunked down into something like this: writing a killer cover letter, sending it to 5 recruiters, uploading it to 3 job platforms, posting on social media that you're available for work, and contacting 5 freelancers to let them know you're looking for your next gig. Other tips for you to consider are incentives. If incentives work for you, reward yourself once you've made great progress or completed that chunk. Set yourself a target of what you consider to be a good bar of achievement and treat yourself accordingly. Next is momentum. The book The One Thing by Gary Keller is a great example of how focusing on one thing can greatly increase your productivity by simply having laser-like focus on one task at a time. This will massively improve your productivity. The book also talks about how multitasking and doing more simultaneously is often a myth for efficiency. The simple formula is doing less tasks increases quality and output. Doing more tasks decreases quality and output. Essentially, less is more. This will also help with motivation before starting your day by tackling one task at a time. On to tip 7, maximize your flow. To optimize motivation, this is where a term psychologists refer to as a flow state. If you're unfamiliar with the term, I'm sure you know that feeling of being in the zone, hyper-focused, or even losing all sense of time. This is when you're fully immersed by having the energized focus of all the enjoyment of that process or the activity. Now, flow states are usually achieved without distractions, and you're able to get into that mental space of having that focus, and this is where you produce your best work effortlessly. Reflect back on the previous tip to remove all distractions to increase your chances of reaching this state. Once you're in a flow state, the common challenge to staying there is usually through boredom or repetition of a task for a long period of time. If you're doing some video retouch work for a 30-second commercial that needed a logo to be removed, this could be 1,500 frames that require painting out that logo one by one. You naturally may plateau after a few hours. So recognize when this attention drops, and when it does, be mindful to take breaks, be kind to yourself, reward yourself, reset, and grab that fresh perspective to switch off and recharge those creative batteries. Tip number 8, automate. Hey, that rhymes. I'm a big fan of automating anything that is either a repetitive or downright monotonous task. I found myself over the years recognizing these patterns in the business, and ones that could be easily templated or automated. For example, when a cold lead reaches out with questions like, do you offer grading services? When is your next availability? You can set up a chatbot on your website which has preset answers to these common questions. You can have these at set hours when you're at your desk, which also works 24/7, 365 days a week. You could even set up a notification and take over from that chatbot to jump into the conversation yourself, or direct it to another assistant if the questions need more of a human touch. Here's another example you may face. Let's say your agent or client wants to schedule a call with you. You can add in a calendar on your website that syncs with your schedule. Website builders like Squarespace partner with Acuity Scheduling, which allows clients to book you in and even take payment for the booking in one go. What about when a client is interested in working with you and you want to whittle down all of the details that are needed for that? You can send them our brief generator tool, which allows the client to fill in a simple yet detailed checklist that gets sent directly to your inbox. This is a huge time saver and saves going back and forth with the client over emails and calls, to fully understand their brief. We have a number of tools to help you with automation, which you can find a link to in the description below. Tip number 9, template. Along with automation, I'm a big fan of templating everything as much as possible. Here are a few ways you can do this. Think of a task that you do repetitively that needs little to no effort to change every time. Then this is something you pretty much can template. Here are 3 examples I use in my working life. Example number 1, cover letters and bios for when you apply to jobs. If you're like me and you find yourself filling out the same cover letter, profile bio, and references when applying to gigs, all of this can be templated. There's a slight exception to the rule that these templates take you 90% there, and you just need to amend 10% to make it unique enough to cater for that specific job, whilst getting your core message and information across. These templates are designed to help you easily add in your details, and boom, you have your cover letter that looks like 1 hour's worth of work done in a minute. Example 2, email templates. When clients email you with similar inquiries like, can you send us all of your contact information and your showreel? When clients email you with similar inquiries like, can you send us your contact information, your company details, and your latest showreel? That's where you can have these template responses ready to copy and paste in. You can even integrate these neatly in your mail software using something like Mail Butler, so it's one click away. A bonus tip is if you're on a Mac or on iOS, you can go to System Preferences, Keyboard, and then Text to set up these super handy shortcuts to type in entire emails using only a few letters, like this. I use this for everything like showreel links, email signatures, and even entire emails. In the course, we include several templates for cover letters, bios, and emails, so be sure to check out those lessons. Our final tip is project setup. Every time you start a project, you've probably noticed you need to create a folder, organize all of those assets, and create something similar to a Premiere, After Effects, or Final Cut project, or even all 3. And then you need to import all of these media into projects in the appropriate places. Well, not anymore, my friend. I've created Project Jumpstart, which has a simple folder structure to unify this across all of your projects from now on. Even if you have to unarchive and dip into an old project, you now know exactly where those files are. The best part is the same goes for inside of the application of your choice, which has the exact same folder structure and assets matching. You also have handy pre-made solids, adjustment layers, social media guidelines, all color-coded. Lastly, tip 10, protect your time. Book in time into your schedule of uninterrupted free time to unwind, recharge, be social, or relax. It may be surprising to hear, but having allocated free time will encourage you to switch off, and I mean fully switch off, in between all of the other times that you're constantly focused on progress. As Jim Rohn eloquently puts, when you work, work, when you play, play. Don't mix the two. It's important to distinguish what is business and what is personal. You can explicitly tell your clients, as I do, I'm switching off for the weekend from Friday 6 p.m. till Monday 8 a.m. So I'll jump onto those amends from then. Find a sustainable schedule that works for you to be incredibly productive and happy, whilst keeping a healthy work-life balance. If you're a productivity geek like me, you'll want to have a bird's eye view of all of your tasks. There are tons of project management tools out there, and one of my favorites at the moment is ClickUp, which is like Trello on steroids. It's the one application I use to manage NK films and NK courses, as well as my personal goals to keep on top of every single task and subtask. If you'd like to see this workflow in action, feel free to drop me an email and I'll create a separate lesson on this. The key to this lesson is to use as many methods as you like to stay disciplined and to develop a habit of working smart. Those are my top 10 time management tips. Remember, tip 1, adopt a healthy mindset. Tip 2, prioritize. Tip 3, delegate. Tip 4, schedule. Tip 5, eliminate all distractions. Tip 6, chunk down. Tip 7, maximize your flow state. Tip 8, automate. Tip 9, template. And tip 10, protect your time. I hope you found them really useful and they have a huge impact on your schedule from now on. Let me know how you get on. Thanks so much for watching and I'll catch you in the next one.